Hi, welcome back to Lakeside Quilt Making Arts and Slow Stitch Saturday, Sunday. Unfortunately, we've had a winter weather event going on this week, so I've not been able to get to the fabric store to find a different background fabric for the center medallion for the Quilt Show's Block of the Month. It's a fabric that we discussed in the last video. I discussed how I was afraid it would fade. I loved how brilliantly deep it is. It was a bright but very saturated blue, and I thought that worked great. But I don't like how that fabric fades. It's just not as high quality as everything else in the quilt. And since this is a quilt that I am pouring time into, I want to make sure that I don't put right in the middle of it a significant amount of fabric that I feel pretty sure is going to fade, and not sure how much it'll fade and how consistently it will fade. So I want a different background. I thought I would explore a little bit. I plopped it up here on the back on top of this other quilt, our Avery #Avery Quilts quilt that we're working on, also known as Comfort in the Waiting quilts. And just to see what it looks like when it's surrounded by a lot of color. You know, it looks good. I like the busyness of that. It's a very scrappy look. Then I plopped this blue behind it, which is not as saturated as the one we were looking at. So I'm looking through other blues that I have, and I have this one, and I kind of like the concept of it having just a small bit of print, but a small graphic in it. But I don't think it's the right color. I think it's too muted. So we're going to keep on looking, and I may not be doing any stitching this weekend. I wish I already had the February pattern so that I could go ahead and start working on my templates for the February one. Unfortunately, I don't have a fabrics store near me. I have to go 45 minutes into town, and that would be Huntsville, Alabama. And the roads there have been covered up in ice all week. I mean, everything's been shut down. So I do without. I do have a Walmart here that has fabric, but again, I'm not looking to put into this quilt the cheaper fabrics. I want fabrics that I can really rely on how they're going to perform and the feel and texture of them. There's just nothing that beats quilt store fabric. They're on another level. I have a confession to make. I have a weakness when I go up to the register, cash register at the quilt store, and I see the little fat eights. I have this thought like they're extras, like they're cheap. I can just throw them into the pile of things I'm buying and they're free. They're like gimmes. Well, they're not. I actually pay for them. But so many of random fat eights have shown up in my stash because I see something, you know, these little fat eights just hanging around, and they know that. This is an intentional effort by that quilt store. They know what they're doing. Must be something psychological about it. Well, anyway, I found a fabric that might just be great. It's got just a little bit, if you can see that, a little bit of print on it. And that might be good. And in fact, I saw a background on a quilt that, where did I see that? I saw it today. Kimberly Jolly was interviewing Chelsea and Sherry from A Quilting Life, and they were showing their quilt they're doing for a nonprofit. Is it NAACP? I believe that's who it's for. It's called Stronger Together. And the background fabric that Kimberly picked for that quilt is kind of similar to that. It was a dark blue, and it had just a little bit of print on it. And I went to their store to see if I could find it, and I didn't find it easily. I didn't put a lot of effort into finding it though. But this makes me think of that. So it's worth us taking a look at it and seeing if we like it. Pull that aside. I think this could work. Yep, look at that. I think it's saturated enough, but it still has some movement. That might be good. I think that's good. It's very saturated, so it has nice contrast with all the brightness going on in the medallion, star, fan blades, and everything. I like it. I'm going to give it a go. I just lifted my table. I'll tell you about that in my Tuesday video, Technical Tuesday video. I like that I've come up with names for each of our days of the week in each video. It helps me. It helps me to organize my thoughts and the videos that we're putting out, and hopefully it helps you to know what to expect given each day of the week that it is. And if there's one line of activity that I'm doing that you want to follow, then you know, well, I'll tune in every Monday, or I'll tune in every Friday, or whatever it is. But of course, I'm hoping that you're here Monday through Friday. Anyway, I'll tell you about lifting this table on the Tuesday video. But now it is now 40.5 inches high, so I can give it a go and see how it works for me to cut out the templates for this background fabric. So there's four, is that right? Eight of these. I can get those out of that. I can cut 8 of those out of this fabric, or maybe I'll just start with just doing one and make sure I like it. I'll stitch that on and we'll see what that looks like. I feel like I made a major mess lifting my table up. Well, I did make a minor mess. Maybe not a complete major mess, but I did make a mess. Just clearing off my table so I could raise it up. So let's move things out of the way. And as soon as we're done, I promise I'm cleaning up my messes between projects. This is what's going on from the Comfort in the Waiting quilt. And it will be something I'm working on. Since I can't slow stitch this weekend, I'll be continuing to work on that and get that video released on Wednesday. But right now, what we're doing with the slow stitch project is, which is of course the Quilt Show's block of the month. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. They have a new show out. I'm so glad. I so enjoy that program because they interview such talented people. Anyway, the quilt of the month, the block of the month quilt block that we're working on is the one from the Quilt Show, and it's Jen Kingwell's PICK-A-PETAL, and we're working on producing the center medallion. So recap for somebody who's not been following along, but there are 2 other videos on this. So what I have done is I've created my templates. We discussed that in the first of this series, and I have that here, I do believe. Yes, the template that we need for the background that we're going to do out of this fabric. We decided that we would look at just one of these and see what that looks like. I think we need to iron this first. I'm telling you, I just kind of moved things haphazardly really quickly to get moving on to getting my table up high, which I think I'm going to love. Love, love, love. One of the reasons why I'm going to love it, let me just tell you that really quickly. I want to show that to you. I keep my rulers on a breadboard, and previously they were kind of at hip height. So I was always afraid that when I turned this corner, I was going to be knocking them over and break or dent or crack one of my expensive, beautiful rulers. And I, was kind of hyper observant to that. But it doesn't matter how hyper observant you are about something. You get into the rush of working on something, especially since I don't have any peripheral vision really. I stumble into things too often. So without being able to turn your head, you lose some peripheral vision because you have to turn your body to look to sides and sides. And then whenever you've got bifocals on, your vision is here, and you can't just turn your head to look. This is full range of motion I have to the right. I don't have any to the left. And so anyway, just wanted to explain that. It's too easy for me to bump into things. So now this is up high where it's more easily seen and more easily avoided. It's not at hip height. So it's more at elbow height. So I can still knock it over, but not as likely. So let's get this fabric flat. And by the way, my wood sample pieces are working out great for a tailor's clapper. I need to get, yes, I might just draw on the back side of this. All right. I think that edge, yeah, that edge is nice and straight. So we can just use that edge and we'll get this marked up. I'll get it cut and then I will do some slow stitching on this. We'll get this one put on. I've got something I need to do on the computer today for a friend. I'll do that while my brain is still working. And then I'll come back and I'll slow stitch this and maybe another one. We'll see if I like it well enough once I get it on. And then once I get a couple of them on, I'll add it to this video so you won't even know about the passage of time. Okay, we've got our dots marked. Great. I have to say, I have been watching, let me find my, there they are. I knew they were here somewhere. I've been watching the Fat Quarter Shop today, and that was Kimberly Jolly interviewing Chelsea and Sherry from A Quilting Life. And it was just so fun. They're lovely, lovely, lovely people, all three of them. And then the son/brother, Billy, who helps his mother and sister for A Quilting Life. Just, you feel like they're people that you could have over to your dinner table and be one of those dinners that last until midnight because everybody's talking and enjoying each other and that kind of thing, especially given the fact they have similar interests. Except Kimberly likes to listen to true crime when she's doing her work, and I do find true crime interesting, but it is I won't let myself listen to it. I've done some, but I just don't want a lot of negativity in my life. It just negativity and tragedy and drama finds us all quickly and easily enough. I don't want to get my thoughts wrapped up in it all the time. That's kind of how I feel about politics too, and why I don't really watch the news. It just, there's so much drama involved in the news. Okay, I just love that. I think that's going to work out really nicely. Is that close enough? All right, you can't see from your angle very well, but I put that one piece up there and I like it. So I'm going to do another one. Okay, so they say to do a reverse so that you have one on one side and one on the other. All right, I'm going to do one on this side. Make sure I leave out. Oh, hang on. When I was moving my table, I definitely moved my weights off the table. Okay. It's going to take me probably half an hour. No, probably not that long, 15 minutes. Straighten up again, which I need to do before I get too far along. I just don't want to waste your time. And I want to do our footage while there's daylight out. Why is that not? There it goes. Anyway, so Kimberly watches true crime, and I like to watch But I'm sorry. Kimberly listens to Kimberly listens to true crime. And that's fine, because I understand it's about the mystery and the puzzle and trying to understand the psychology of why people do the things they do. I get that. But it's just not what I want to do day in and day out. One of the things I like to watch that's not quilting related is YouTube. It's almost all YouTube. I do watch a little bit of TV, especially when my son's been in town, because this is not working great. It's moving the fabric more. Let me see if this orange will show up on here. On these little tiny corners where the fabric, on the edge of the fabric, I think I can see that. Yeah. The fabric was moving too much and it wasn't letting the marker mark. I can see this orange, so that's what we'll go with. Anyway, what I am watching on Saturdays is a YouTube channel. It says, "Who do you think you are?" And it is about people, and they usually pick, I'm sure they do other people, but they usually are working with somebody famous. And, I'm not up on the culture of the entertainment world, so some of the people are not familiar to me, and that's okay. And it's about finding your ancestry. And they normally are featuring somebody who is famous, and they're generally from the entertainment industry, I believe. I believe that's been their MO so far. And it's interesting, not, because the person is famous, but just to see just like what I was talking about with Kimberly watching the true crime, learning what makes people think, why did people in our history do the things they did? Why does this person who I'm meeting through this video, why is he or she searching for their history? How did they get to be who they are based off of the history they're revealing about that person? It's just all interesting. So that's, generally about an hour of my Saturday. And I watch lots of quilting YouTube as well, and I enjoy that tremendously. Tremendously. It's good, it's informative, light, no drama. Kind of checks the boxes for me. All right, get this one trimmed up here, and we'll set it up there with the other one on the design board. Kind of hard to cut right on the edge, but I hate to waste fabric. I should have given myself just a little bit more margin so it would have been easier. By the way, if you're local and you're watching this, local as in the North Alabama area, there's something happening on February 14th that you should know about. There's the long arm service called Quilting at the Cottage, which is something that Sherry Spivey, a long-time long arm quilting provider, a provider of long arm quilting services for a long time now, Sherry Spivey. She's created this business along with some people that she's been training and working with for quite a long time. So you can trust their work as well, because she's vetted them and been working with them for a long time. And I just don't know the other individuals, so I can't speak about them, right? But I trust Sherry, and she's a great person. So she's opening her own business with those individuals. They're having an open house on February 14th, and it's in 5 Points of Huntsville. I think it's 603 Humes. It's right beside Patches and Stitches, if you know where that is. All right, I'm going to put this on the wall and then bring you closer to it so you can see as well. I thought I reversed this. I Shoot, I wanted to do two that were side by side. I was busy talking to you and not thinking clearly. So now I need to do another one. I don't understand just yet all the little nuances about cutting patterns. So if I did that, I guess I should have flipped my template. Let me just mock that up. So yeah, that's what it would have done. Yep, I would have flipped my template. See, I have to think these things through because I haven't done it enough for it to be automatic. If you're an experienced quilter or even a seamstress and you're familiar with different patterns, you're like, oh, Dawn, of course. Okay, so now I know which way I want this to be done. I'm going to bring you closer. Maybe that's close enough. Now that I know that I want my pattern, my template laying in this direction, I am going to turn it over with my fabric, but reverse it like this so that I can make my ink marks where I can more easily see them. Set that there so it doesn't slide around on me. We'll get this done. Not a lot of slow stitching going to be happening on this video, which, you know, I do like the tempo of these videos where we just kind of talk a little bit while we're quilting, kind of like a quilt along like we do with the Wednesdays when we're doing the comfort in the waiting quilts. But even that's a little bit more fast-paced than this because this is hand done and, you know, learning new techniques. And whenever I'm stretching out of my comfort zone and learning something new, no matter how simple of a thing it is, I want to share it with you guys. So that makes for a little bit more of an involved video, a little bit longer than normal. And I just want to share that with you guys because that's the whole deal, right? That's what we're here for. That's what I'm promising you that you'll get out of this channel is a journey. We're here for a journey. We're here to be a community and be with each other. All right, let's get this cut out. Oh, I think I was telling you about the interview with Chelsea and Sherry from A Quilting Life. They were doing a trunk show, and it was delightful. It really was. They've come out with some new fabrics, strawberry lemonade, I think it is. And so they put together some of their patterns in that fabric line. And it was just nice to see a couple of them that I believe it was Chelsea, yeah, Chelsea and Sherry. I get my tongue tied on it. I believe Chelsea were a little bit more beginner friendly, and I thought one or two of them might be good for the quilt. One or two of them might be good for the quilts that we're doing for Comfort in the Waiting. And then one of them in particular I thought would be great, and not because it's easy, but because of the design. Might be great for the quilt that I want to do for my friend Ellen. I'm not going to speak much about it in case she's listening, she's watching. I also had an epiphany last night for the quilt that I want to do for my friend Kathy, one of my angels. Ellen and Kathy are both friends and angels who've helped me in multiple ways. It's amazing. When something happens to take you away from your life and all of a sudden you're in a place of need and you need help and you know you feel isolated, you are isolated. The people who you're in people who are in your circle are in your circle because of the activities that you're doing. And so they're not there when your activities change. But what that does is it, just like the old saying, when one door closes, another opens, or when all the doors closes, a window opens, and if that doesn't, go and open it yourself. Um, so when your life changes from illness or whatever, and the people that are in your circle are no longer there, it just leaves room for angels like, Ellen and Kathy and Kim and Margot and all the people who have stepped in, and my friends Ken and Carrie, all the people who have got me through this last 6-7 years, especially. It was a journey for sure. Anyway, let's take a look. We got 2 of these now. I'm going to get you closer. Having that cutting table so high. Oh my gosh, it's still the wrong way. It's just like it was. I thought I considered that. Oh my goodness. We're getting there. All right, this is what I need to be doing, is I need to be saying, this is what I need to create. So I need to put that on my fabric like that. And if I turn this over, since my fabric is not directional, it should be the same, right? Nope, that would change it because it would be oriented that direction. Interesting. Okay. So my template, see, I don't think I'm dyslexic until I start learning new things like this. And then I have to think twice about whether or not I've had dyslexia my whole life. That's the direction that should go. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put it on my fabric like that. Watch me. I'm not moving it, not budging it. It's laying on the cutting board just like that. Can you hear my Zoe girl breathing and panting at my feet? Don't know what's up with her. I wish she could. Now you probably hear her. Don't you wish our babies, our fur babies, could talk to us, like with words? Of course, I've seen people on social media that have their dogs hitting buttons to communicate with them. I don't know. My dog is really smart. She's a part border collie and part chow. Both are smart breeds. Don't know if it's just because she's an old girl now and maybe dealing with some dementia. I'm not sure. But I don't think she could do the words. I got a set of those buttons and we played with it a little bit, but she didn't really seem interested at all. And so I just gave up on it. Decided to give those things to somebody else. I think I gave them to the thrift store, the dog thrift store, where somebody might be interested in them. Anyway, so I don't know if you've experienced using them, if you've gotten your dog communicating with those little buttons, let me know. Anyway, my point was, I wish she could tell me, Mom, I want water. Mom, I want to go out. Mom, I want to go out the back door, not the front door. Where are my treats? Like which one of the things that she think is really important is she panting about at the moment? Wouldn't that be lovely? I have a feeling my little black marks in those holes are not going to be easily seen, but we'll can always remake those later when we need them. But for right now, I just need my outline to show up. Again, I'm marking right up against a cut line of the fabric, and so it wants to give and move and pull. Not great, but not the end of the world either. I can see that, I think. Let's get it cut out. Gosh, this table being up high like this is awesome. Rest my elbows on it. It's fantastic. Kind of hard to see. So it's good to take a look at my template itself so I can get this right. Going back to what I was telling you earlier about Kimberly interviewing Chelsea and Sherry, they did a trunk show and it was great. It was inspiring on many levels. The colors are just nice and fresh, but just listening to people talk who talk about things you're interested in, and they're talking about being productive and the things they're doing and how excited they are about it. I mean, you could be talking about something I'm not interested in, and I'm going to find that interesting. And just finding like-minded people enjoying each other, that's always a good thing. But Chelsea's designs are kind of like they were saying, from mostly beginnerish, a beginner, more on the beginner side than intermediate, but maybe in um, that gap between beginner and intermediate. Is there a, nope, that just comes to a point. Okay. There we go. And so that was good for me to look at, a couple of inspiring ones in there. And Sherry has been doing this quilting thing for a few decades now, all the way through the time that her children were young, and she has 4 adult children. So her designs were lovely too. Hers were a little bit more along the intermediate. Nothing was overly hard, it didn't look like. All right, let's see if we got this one right. All right, let me put this under the iron real quick so it will lay flat. Well, flat enough for us to look at right now. Yay, I got it in the right order. Something else that differentiates Kimberly Jolly from me, besides the decades of great experience and techniques that she's acquired, is that she starches everything. Starches all of her fabric before she uses it, and I don't. And some of it I don't even wash, because I like that sizing that's in it to be used as my starch, because it keeps the fabrics a little bit stiffer. The Walmart fabrics are always pretty good and stiff, but the good quilting fabrics aren't, and that's fine. I do use Mary Ellen's Best Press. I keep it on my ironing station, and I use this kind of spray bottle because it's easy on the hands, and it's great. It's reliable and does a great job. Puts out a nice mist, a nice continuous spray mist, and that gives a little bit of starch to it. So I'm talking so I can engage with this and look at it from 2 different ways, in the camera and looking at it head on, to see if I like it well enough to stick with that. I think I do. I may want to live with it for a second, but I like it enough to go ahead and cut out more of these other pieces to put up here. Let me do that, and I won't make you have to watch me for that, but I'll be right back. I started sweating things out a little bit here. I was afraid I wasn't going to have enough fabric. So to make sure that I did, just wanted to share this with you really quickly. Not only did I make sure that I was getting the right orientation with my template, I had 4 left to cut. And so I squeezed one into the corner as much as I could. And then with the last 3, I put this template in the right orientation. And then I took show that to you. I took the pieces from the background fabric that we had tried to use, and I had them in the right orientation, and I laid them out too, to make sure that once I cut that next piece out, which I just did and put on the board, that I would still have enough room for this. And I had to butt my lines up against each other to make it work out. This obviously was a fat 1/8, and this piece is going to go right there. And I need to go with the straight, with the grain of the fabric, right? So that, because this is got an arc to it, you want to make sure that you're not stretching your fabric. It doesn't, when you're on the bias, you can really mess things up. So this one shares that cut line, and it just barely fits. I mean, it was close, close, close. I'll get you a photo of that so you can see it too. Super, super tight. That's how we're looking so far. I think it's a good exercise actually to see that medallion star against the blue fabric, against all the colors of the quilt underneath it. Even though that quilt is not exactly like what we're doing, it's bright and bold colors similar to what the star is. Not like we're dealing with muted grays or anything in that quilt behind it. So it's not too far of a stretch of the imagination. I'm excited. 2 more pieces to cut. I get to slow stitch tonight. Before I cut this last template for the background of the medallion, I want to show you something. While I have been, wait, let me make sure, yes, just making sure I got it in the right orientation. While I was tracing these and cutting them out, I've been listening to the Saturday show of the Quilt Show, where they have a woman by the name of Dee Christopher. She shows a project each Saturday. She's been gone for a few weeks because her daughter got married at the holidays, and so she was involved in that, and as she should be. And so she's talking about things that most of us have already forgotten about, and that's New Year's resolutions. So she's demonstrating on the show that I'm watching, this first one of hers this year, about making a quilt that has your word of the year. And I think that's kind of interesting. I don't have a word of the year this year. I typically do, and I used to for decades, especially work kind of professionally. It was part of your New Year planning and setting goals for the year, and whatever was um, such a mindful thing that I would come up with a word for the year. But I kind of stopped doing it when I picked this one set of words. I believe it's Latin for coram diem. Is that the right word? No. So carpe diem, and it's coram deo, I believe. But it's in the glory of the. I may even have it wrong altogether now. It's been so long. But in the glory of the light, glory of the sun, glory of the Lord, and to make the most of each day. And that's kind of my motto anyway. So I kind of stopped having a word for the year. However, this year I don't think I need it. It's pretty clear to me. I don't need a word keeping me focused this year. This is my first opportunity to try to get my life back after all the things that have happened to me medically, health-wise and medically. And so I don't think I'm going to forget my goals. I'm starting this YouTube channel, and that's awesome. It's a really phenomenal thing to be at this point where I get to do these things again and have reasonable expectations that I can actually put forth consistent efforts to make them happen. And that's just, very encouraging. So I don't think I necessarily needed a word for this year, but listening to Dee Christopher do her talk this morning as she's about to demonstrate the quilt that she's talking about, which I haven't watched the whole thing yet. Stopping to talk to you guys as I finish this up. I do have a thought now. I had told you in one of the videos that I have this space to the left of my sewing machine, sewing area, where I want to put a quilted piece of wall art. and I wasn't sure what it should be. One thing I thought about doing is taking one of the design, I've got 2 design boards on this easel, 4x4, and I thought about taking one of them and hanging it over there, and I might still do that, because even if I do what I'm talking about doing now, I can always cover it up and use it as a design board when I have more than one project going on. Like right now, I don't want to take off the design board, the comfort in the waiting blocks, just to put up this one medallion star. So I just plopped it on top of it, right? So if I had 2 of those design boards, then I could, it increases my chances that when I need to use a design board quickly, that I have space available to do that. But if I do what I'm thinking about doing, I can figure out how to also have a piece of fleece that lies over it, so that I can then also use it as a design board. And if I take one of these design boards and put over there, then this quilt that I'm thinking about making with a word on it, 3 words on it actually, I could put that on top of it, and so it's all fine. So I don't think this new thought negates the previous thoughts. We always want to make sure that we're not just adding and subtracting at the same time that we're adding, right? That making sure that a new initiative does not erase an old initiative, at least not one that we want to keep, right? It's okay to change. If an old initiative is, something that is no longer needing to be an initiative. So we'll see. I might do that. But anyway, the thing the art piece, I think it might need to be my logo. The Lakeside Quilt Making Arts. Put that up there. That might be a nice little project to do after I get a couple more of my projects done. Definitely don't need to put any more pet projects in front of Liam's Mars quilt, Happy Valley 2.0. Don't want to do that. Need to get this quilt done for that young man. All right, that's our last one. So excited. All right, here we go. We get to put this last one in. I'm so glad I did not waste any fabric. Figured out this reverse template issue. All right. Looky, looky, looky. That looks good. It was a good call, wasn't it? Thank goodness. I'm so happy. Glad I continue to look in my stash, and I'm now a believer in picking up those 1/8 that are sold throughout the fabric store. You just never know. If something catches your eye and it's just a couple of bucks, sometimes you need to throw it into the basket and purchase it as well. There are worse things I could spend my money on, right? This is a great project and I'm loving it. All right, I love it. I'm just sitting here taking it all in. I won't get it all stitched up for this video, unfortunately. I've got to stop and do some other work for the rest of the evening. I think I need to get some dinner, and I've got a project to do for a friend on the computer. So you'll see this video tomorrow for our Slow Stitching Sunday video release. And then next Sunday, you'll see it put together, and you also hopefully see me working on the quilt templates for block 2. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. So I had told you in the video, when was it? In the recap video on Friday, that the Quilt Show's block of the month would be released on Mondays. But I started thinking about it, and I swear a good night's sleep helps everybody think more clearly. I started thinking about it last night, that my slow stitching videos need to come out on Saturday or Sunday, because that's generally when someone's mindset is more in that mode, more relaxed and doing these slower paced projects. Mondays probably needs to be a little bit perkier. Everybody's getting it back into the work week, and I need to wrap this up quickly and figure out what she needs from me. But so on Mondays, I want that to be our Moda Blockheads 5 is what they call them. Out of the Moda blockheads, I'm going to make a quilt, right? Because I think they're going to do this every week all the way through July. And I don't know how many weeks that is, 30 or something like that. Surely that's not 30. I don't know what it is. Maybe. So you'll get several quilt blocks. So I'm going to take those blocks and put them into a quilt for my friend Kathy. And so that's one of my angels. So I want to pick out my fabric for that to be in her colors. I want it to be in the blues and greens, kind of a sea glass color. So that's what our new programming is. Sundays, slow stitching. Monday is our uh, motivational kind of a higher pace video. Then on Tuesday is our Tuesday Tech. Wednesday is our waiting, comfort in the waiting. So W for waiting and W for Wednesday. And then Thursday is our pet project. I'm sorry I couldn't come up with an alliteration for that one. I'm sure if I think about it hard enough, I can. And then Friday is our recap video. All right, I'm excited. That's going to look good. Nope, other one fell. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you for being here and sharing some time with me. And I hope you're enjoying your slow stitching. I'll be slow stitching tomorrow, but it'll be after this is released. Take care. See you soon.